What's up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. Welcome back for me to do the Korn discography. I know it has been 2 years since I had reviewed any Korn album. The last album I did review was Requiem back in 2022. And if you guys have seen my voting post on my channel's community section, this album got the highest of the votes, which means that I am back to come back to Korn and review the band's third studio album entitled Follow the Leader. Follow the Leader was released on the 18th of August 1998, so almost exactly 2 years since the release of the band's second album, my favourite Korn album, of Life is Peachy, that was released in 1996. Now when it comes to the rise of new metal and with bands with Slipknot, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Cold Chamber, Snot, Static X, etc., in terms of popular albums in the genre, Follow the Leader is one of the most iconic albums. This became the band's most popular and best-selling album to date. First album in their career at this point to not feature Ross Robinson as their producer for the third time, because around the time Korn were making this album, Ross moved over to produce Slipknot's first debut studio album. Steve Thompson, who previously worked for Metallica to mix their And Justice for All album, was chosen to be their producer for this album. Unfortunately, the band decided to fire Steve, but if you have got a copy of Follow the Leader on vinyl or CD or both, Steve's name is still credited. According to Jonathan Davis, he said, and I quote, "We weren't seeing eye to eye on things and bumped heads a lot. He's an awesome producer, but we thought it'd be better if he went." He said that in an interview for Kerrang! Magazine. So after Steve was fired, the delay of the album's production happened, and Korn decided to have Toby write, which means that Jonathan's vocal tracks had to be re-recorded. This is an album that was completely crazy, as Korn were heavily intoxicated with alcohol, have done loads of drugs during the production of the album and the making. If you have seen the Deuce DVD, if you watched the Who They're Now documentaries, a home video, according to Monkey, one of the band's guitarists, they did spend $27,000 on alcohol. The band decided to mix the album by themselves. Follow the Leader features guests, and I will have to say, while the first two Korn albums were completely raw, in your face, so menacing, but with very personal and emotional themed lyrics, I think this is the beginning album where Korn have decided to expand and explore, because there is the growth of the band's virtuosity. You can hear some more new things for the first time in terms of the style of production, to different variation of beats to studio effects and guitar riffs. So the band were beginning to experiment. Guests for this album: Ice Cube, Fred Durst, Trey Hudson, and Cheech Marin from Cheech and Chong for the hidden bonus track of Korn's cover of the Cheech and Chong song Earache My Eye. Follow the Leader has been one of my favourite Korn albums. However, the only big thing that I will have to say is, while this has been known as like a masterpiece and a classic for many Korn fans, as a Korn fanatic myself, I personally would like to prefer the band's previous albums, and as well as with the follow-up album issues over this album, but I will still see Follow the Leader as one of the band's strongest albums in terms of the quality that they've put into their own creativity for the album. And Follow the Leader obviously features some of the band's most popular tracks. If you have the CD copy of Follow the Leader, the first track is It's On, but it's labelled as track number 13. The reason for that is the first 12 tracks are 5 seconds of complete silence. This was done with a purpose. It was done as a tribute to a fan of the band named Justin, and Korn decided to make a song with his name, and I will talk about it obviously later in the review because it's one of the tracks. It's On opens with some kind of weird, I think, synthesizer type noise, and a trip hop style beat comes up. Then immediately after that, for a few seconds, the drums and the opening guitar notes join in. Then Korn begins with the whole band playing, in my opinion, one of the best hooks the band had ever written and performed. The verse sections featured excellent drumming from David, and Fieldy's bass lines were so good. They were bringing in more of the punches along with the musicianship itself. Jonathan's vocals were sounding desperate. He's like expressing some tension in his voice. It is one of my favourite tracks from Korn, and it's one of my favourites on any Korn album to begin with. The lyrics were based on Jonathan's pressure from what's been going on around him at the time the band were making the album, through tons of the partying, women, tons of drinking. On the chorus, he questions himself and says it's his fault because of those things that made him feel worse while he was involved with the band. Apparently, there were blowjobs going on in front of Jonathan while he was recording his vocals, hence the first verse. Freak on a Leash. This is the band's most popular hit, along with the other hits like Blind, Clown, Falling Away From Me, Got the Life, etc. A masterpiece. This was the song that got me into Korn after I was blown away from seeing the band's music video. It was just fantastic. It's instantly catchy from the rhythm, and it defines at one of the band's best in the songwriting and the chemistry of all of the band that did compose such a memorable structure. The guitars were making these eerie, spooky sounds in the verse with the effects. Chorus grew that power, especially when you hear the vocal melody, and the bass from Fieldy sounded so crispy. The iconic scatting bridge section is a favourable moment in the whole track as it matches the vibe of the song's tonality. The lyrics are a heavy detail about the music industry through Korn's experience, thinking that the industry is abusing Jonathan and making him feel like, as he says, a freak, corporate America making all the money while it's taking a part of me. He describes the feeling of his depression and thinks when the good things start happening, at the same time, he thinks there's hope that could happen to feel happy again, and then something bad happens and he goes back down feeling depressed again. Life's been trying to make him feel down, and it's been messing with him. He tries to get away from the pain by taking more drugs. There are some interpretations to the word vain, if you have heard the word by focusing on the lyrics. The interpretations could be maybe meaning that it would be a choice of Jonathan to maybe take his own life because of the pressure, or just to have sex to hide the feeling of the emptiness. So the word vain could be used in these different ways of what that part of the lyric really means. The chorus clearly sums up his frustration in the music industry, the hate of consumerism. Freak on a Leash is not only just popular, it's one of the magnum opus songs from the entirety of the band's existence. Got the Life, another single for the album, fun, energetic, and another consistent track through amazing beats to unforgettable work of the band, making such a difference of sound. Got the Life was originally based off of a disco beat, so the change of the sound of the song was very noticeable. The music is delivered into this change of the band to do some kind of bouncy tight playing style. The structure is so great. It's less aggressive and it's like a poppy feeling to it. To me, Monkey and Head created one of the most musical pieces in the band's whole consistency of songwriting and repertoire. The lyrics are into Jonathan's questioning once again, but this time he questions if he wants the fame when the band got famous. Like the chorus says, God telling him he should be happy when he got the attention and the bigger popularity, and reminds him that there are other people who are as famous who also have more problems with life than him. There was the increase of tension in the bridge section when he shares how he felt, and the music to this bit the band were doing perfectly connects that emotion. It's an amazing song to follow up Freak on a Leash, and it's one of the highlights on Follow the Leader because of, as I said, the change of music and for being such a strong song. Dead bodies everywhere. This track fades in with slow, high, jingling notes in like a horror movie setting, and then that loud bang of the band collides into one of the most intensifying moments of instrumentation from the band. They were very aggressive from the raging chords and heavy playing, this time about Jonathan's parents, and they didn't want him to be involved and as a part in the music industry, to share that honesty by asking them why they were holding him back and to stop Jonathan from having the life that he wants. So Jonathan's parents did have some frame of mind of fear of him being successful, or just to be full of jealousy. The anger from Jonathan's emotions were coming out on the chorus because he was pissed off from his reaction to his parents, that they didn't give him a lot of the love from his youth. Obviously it was very bad and heavily toxic and scarring, and points out his parents so negatively. But I really enjoy this one a lot. And actually, it's a favourable one for me because of the rawness, and it shows itself like a similar form of the aggression like the first two Korn albums. Children of the Corn featuring Ice Cube. Ice Cube guest appearance worked so well, just like with Wicked, in my opinion. Featured Chino Moreno from Deftones on the Life is Peachy album. On the introduction, Ice Cube announced to all parents that both Korn and Ice Cube are controversial due to their subject matters, leading to the parents being not okay with both of them. Jonathan's first verse is around his struggles in raising his son, who represents the younger generation and reflects his experiences of sexual abuse and how much it affected his views on sex. It makes a cycle of abuse and misguidance which leads to a youth that's violent and full of disillusion. The chorus from Ice Cube's messaging of the youth's attitude towards the authority, guns and drugs shaped their identity and worldview. His performance was brilliant. Then Jonathan and Ice's third verse is about a protagonist's experience of being excluded as a gay man, then turned into a player, claiming baptism as a rebirth, and then later on identifies himself as a child of the Korn, as the phrase children of the Korn has been repeated occasionally through the whole song. The fourth and last verse is all about the rage and rebellion targeting the police, parents, and the church to address the cause of the youth's misguided behavior. The music is a perfect mix of hearing these hip-hop sounds, distortion, and crunchy guitars, and this blend of Jonathan's separate performance from his whispering to his yells and the raging rap vocal style from Ice Cube. BBK. This track is one of the creative ones, as Korn decide to add in some more separate tones, buzzy, noisy sounds through these groovy riffs, and it does feel like some kind of industrial experiment in the verse sections. Jonathan's vocals were double tracked for this one to hear both his low voice and the main vocal melody. The whole thing feels as intense and so moody, which is very good after the previous track of Children of the Korn. I love the precise action of the drumming to the bass lines. They were filling in the spots while the vocals come into play. Jonathan said it was self-structured. The lyrics were in the same feelings like what he said about the experience of It's On lyrically. He felt the big pressure of making the album in the studio and his mind was going elsewhere, then into some kind of thinking of suicide, questioning things as we see from this song's lyricism. I think this track is one of the underrated ones that I love, and it deserves a lot more recognition, and it was released as a promotional single. The next track, Pretty, one of the most disturbing tracks. Jonathan wrote it about his job as an autopsy assistant at a coroner's office. He saw a murdered baby that was also raped by her father. It's such a scarring moment, and it must have been brave of him to write something that disgustingly grotesque, like what he did on probably the most disturbing metal song that I've ever heard of, Daddy. Pretty's music is highly haunting through the ghostly guitars, and the atmosphere is full of the despair. It's as heavy, like with the grim descriptions of the lyrics, and it makes it some of Korn's unsettling songs, which is another favourable part in this change of songwriting from the band, to combine actual events from Jonathan's wordplay and to match it with the craft of the music together. All in the Family. Now with this one, this features Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. Out of all of the songs on this album, this song is one that I could do without. I don't think this is a good song whatsoever. I personally think this is one of the worst Korn songs, and just because I said that, I'm not the only one who thinks that way, because years later, Jonathan hated this song. I do dig what the band were doing in the intriguing produced sounds and the similar sound from like what Children of the Korn was, but the lyrics to this song are all over the place with non-stop insults and pot shots between Jonathan and Fred Durst. The words just come off as stupid, dumb. They've never aged well. There were references to Funk Dubious, Austin Powers, the children band Hanson, Limp Bizkit, of course. But All in the Family is a dud. I really do not like this song at all. But if you love this song just because of it being just a shits and giggles track that's not meant to be taken seriously. I understand, but I just hate this song. I know both Jonathan and Fred are close friends for a really long time now, but besides that there was no disrespect between the pair of them on this song is just awful, and it's one that I would just skip ahead and not listen to it in full, in its entirety, ever again. Say what you say about this song, but that's just what I think. Reclaim My Place, a wah-wah introduction, and then Korn goes straight in through some incredible variation, because this is an interesting song. Pieces of guitar work, from harmony to some discordant, frantic noises. It's quite a punishing song when everyone is just ballistic on here. The change of tone to the bridge section, hearing some mellow, anxious tones, the hateful, darkening rage was unstoppable. This song lyrically have returned to the experience of Jonathan being bullied, and he's been viewed by others as a freak, being accused as gay. They bullied his looks. Jonathan also wrote about his time joining the band to get away, but then to think to himself that his bandmates would tease him as well. The battling of these feelings and the mistreatment, and he wants to overcome these problems through these challenges to reclaim his sense of self-worth and being belonged in this world. I do really appreciate why Jonathan wanted to, share that honesty, because of his extreme vulnerability. And Reclaim My Place, just like with BBK, is sadly underappreciated. Now we go to the track Justin. This is the choice of Korn to write a song as a tribute to the fan of the same name, and his last wish was to meet the band in person. He was passing away from cancer. As a part of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Justin got his wish. Jonathan was freaking out over it, to think about the idea of making a song to a fan. It's kind of like a similar piece of music to the opening riff of It's On. So you could listen to It's On at the start when the band join in and hear the chorus on this song. But I still enjoy this one a lot. I have always shared a lot of the love to Korn, and it is beautiful the band decided to come up with a song and dedicate it to a beloved fan. Seed. I would select this one as another gem, because what's big about this one is lyrically not only on John's difficulty about his time around fame and popularity, but it's also focusing on his mental health by looking after his son, and he shares the struggles of dealing with that popularity, of being in the band while being responsible as a father. Like the chorus with the track's title, Seed, it could be about him looking at his son and showing his love for him despite his uncomfortable state of mood. Other lyrics would be questioning himself again. I know the questioning part is repetitive with saying that word through the other tracks earlier in the review, but it was truthful for Jonathan on where he's at. He questions himself again if he wants to continue his career as a musician, but it's the only thing he was working on since Korn had become popular in the music industry and anywhere they go. It obviously opens up his vulnerability to show his adoring love for his son. Cameltosis, a strange sitar type of sound at the start. Hip-hop beats come in with Trey Hudson. His own rapping was really, really good on this track, and I like his flow when he follows along with the band. The duration of this track, lyrics-wise, is around the toxicity of Jonathan's experiences with women. Trey's detail of the words were well written and neatly rhymed. John's chorus were very much vulgar because of his own hate on never wanting to fall in love with women again. Cameltosis was taken as a joke because it sounds like camel toes, according to Jonathan. Smacking snare drums on this one, solid production, wicked multi-tracked vocals, and it's one of those songs that I do like. Not one of the strongest tracks, but obviously it's better than All in the Family in my opinion because of the simple arrangement, and it's just the overall flow that I like on this one. My Gift to You, the longest track on the album. It's quite a huge progressive one in terms of the multiple parts through chords, tempo changes, and the opening sound of the bagpipes did sound gorgeous. I adore hearing bagpipes in music. The entirety of the words were intentionally a dark mindset of love. It's not like a typical idea of writing a love song. Jonathan wrote it as a love song to his girlfriend at the time, Renee, but it was made with a twisted change to write lyrics on how much he loved her, but he had a dream of choking her and then having sex with her lifeless body. Perfect duration of the beginning with long chords, making the song as menacing. Hearing some kind of doomy sludge vocally is in a bigger form of range from slow, low registered vocal notes and then progressed into an eruption of paranoid bursts of emotional breakdowns. It's a vulgar but melodic finale. Earache My Eye, on the other hand, there's not much to talk about this one. It's, as I said earlier, a cover of the Cheech and Chong song of the same name. This cover is wild, and to me, I would describe it as like a schizophrenic person that's going ballistic because of the sound of the band. Cheech's appearance was really enjoyable, and Korn made it just as wacky yet repetitive musically, but it's fun and highly random, yet it was made with the purpose. I don't mind listening to this cover. It's not like, perfection. It's not like one of the greatest things in the world, but as a hidden track, they just got away with it through this big banter around this cover. Overall, Follow the Leader by Korn is, as I said earlier, one of my favourites. It is a great, awesome album from start to finish, despite some of the drawbacks. Besides that, I have loved a lot of Korn's albums. I think Follow the Leader is one of the best Korn albums because of the ambition and the open-mindedness to experiment. Let me know what you guys think of this album in the comments down below. Do you love this album? Is this one of your favourites? Is this one of your all-time favourite albums for any Korn fan? Do share your thoughts on it. I'm going to give Follow the Leader by Korn a 9 out of 10. I know this review was really lengthy, but I am very proud to come back to Korn and review their albums once again. Thank you guys for watching. Until then, I will keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.